Game day for the Denver Broncos. Whether they were playing in massive Mile High Stadium or any other ballpark throughout the National Football League, the 1988 Broncos were a team that gave fans a lot to cheer about.
Broncos! It's always fun when you're going full speed. All right, man, you can't play this game tentative. You got to attack their ass every play. So let's start on the kickoff now. Let's go. Hit somebody! I almost had you. Execute. Get some field position here.
Looking to the right, pressure comes. He throws it up the far side for Vance Johnson. Got it across the 50, the 40, running left, the 30, the 25, 26. Go! 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 After back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, the 1988 Denver Broncos deserved far greater respect than they seemed to be getting as the 1988 season began. This was a team that never felt the sense of accomplishment it had earned, because the Super Bowl creates the myth that if you get that far and lose, you're not a very good team. And yet for 2 years, Denver played hard. And with great leadership, dramatically found a way to get to the Super Bowl. 42 seconds to go. The look, the throw, touchdown! The Mark Jackson 98.5-yard drive. There should have been a lot of satisfaction in that. Yet the Broncos never were fully able to appreciate the fact that this team did accomplish something great.
To Biner trying to slip left at the 5. He's at the goal line. Biner loses the ball. Denver recovers the fumble. Castile comes up with it.
After coming so close, the 1988 Broncos desperately wanted a third straight shot at a world championship.
That's our goal. I mean, we're not shooting for anything less. I can't sit here and say we'll definitely be in the Super Bowl again. That's a hard thing to do, and we found that out. It's hard to get there, and it's hard to win. But I think that we have a shot.
We have as much talent as anybody in the AFC. We know how to win the big games. And it just comes down to a matter who wants it the most. And we've been there the past couple years. We know what it means, and plan on getting back.
The road to the Super Bowl is not always straight. And the twists and turns are especially hazardous when you've been the AFC champions for 2 consecutive seasons. On opening day, the Seattle Seahawks got off to a head start and an early lead before the Bronco defense finally slammed on the brakes. However, Denver's offense, which had been so explosive during the preseason, sputtered. But when the dust settled, the Broncos were making a late run at the Seahawks as John Elway improvised a score to Mark Jackson that pulled Denver to within a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, the Broncos ran out of time. But the next Sunday, in front of their traditional Mile High Stadium sellout, the Broncos rediscovered their scoring punch against San Diego. Number 7 quarterback John Elway dazzled the Chargers with his fancy footwork, and his strong right arm jabbed out over 250 yards to a host of talented wideouts that included Ricky Nattiel, number 84, Vance Johnson, and Mark Jackson.
John back to throw and throwing it long for Mark Jackson. He's open, ball coming at the goal line. Touchdown! The receivers to the right. Vance Johnson's back in on 2nd and 4. Elway looks, throws, and it is caught. Vance Johnson, touchdown!
This scoring spree included running back Tony Dorsett's first touchdown as a Bronco.
Pick it up right now, Tony. Right now, Tony.
Once again, Dorsett, and he's got a wide open track. He'll score. Tony Dorsett, 22 for the touchdown behind the Keith Bishop block.
Way to go, Big. Hey, way to run, Tony!
Denver polished off the Chargers with an impressive defensive performance that included interceptions by Jeremiah Castile and Randy Robbins, number 48, and allowed only 3 points. But if it seemed that Denver was back on track, Week 3 in Kansas City suggested otherwise. It was a game that was fiercely fought, but frightfully flawed. The Bronco defense created turnovers, but quick whistles, instant replays, and elusive bounces kept them from capitalizing. But perhaps the most discouraging aspect of the game was that Denver's last-second scramble to tie the game and send it into overtime failed.
It has turned out, from Kansas City's point of view, to be a nice day. How nice will it be? 4th and 4. The pass over Sewell and incomplete.
A team that once lived in the clutch died there in Kansas City, 20-13. It was a loss that confirmed there would be no easy Sundays for the 1988 Denver Broncos.
Every time we play somebody, they're fired up to play us because we're two-time defending AFC champs, and that's tough to do. That means you've got to be on the top of your game week in and week out, and I'm not so sure that we've done that. And it's tough. To repeat twice is tough. To repeat 3 times is even tougher.
A Week 4 Monday night showdown against the Raiders gave Denver the perfect setting in which to bounce back.
Play right! Got full! Double wing! Swat!
Paced by veterans like linebacker Jim Ryan, number 50, the Bronco defense jumped all over the Raiders.
Swap it back, Geronimo!
3rd and 5. Schrader on the drop. Here comes the blitz. There he goes. Sack. Dennis Smith.
Yeah, Dennis! Way to go, DS. That's the way, babe. Trojan left! Yeah, you're over here. No heavy!
Throughout the first half, the defense was clever, tough, and aggressive.
Ram!
Closes. He's hit, intercepted. Picked off at the 13-yard line by Simon Fletcher. Tyrone Braxton hitting Schrader as he let the ball go, and it went right to Simon Fletcher.
On offense, John Elway ignited an attack that sizzled in the first half. An 86-yard bomb to Vance Johnson, number 82, set up the first of 2 Tony Dorsett touchdown runs. The defense kept pounding out the hits.
Yes, that's right! Try that stuff!
During the first 30 minutes, Denver could do little wrong as the running of Sammy Winder and the passing of Elway to Steve Sewell lifted Denver into a seemingly insurmountable 24-0 halftime lead.
Good first half.
But in the second half, the complexion of the game and the rest of the season changed suddenly and dramatically.
Crossfire!
The Raiders came storming back, and the Broncos couldn't stop them.
We gave him life, we gotta take it away. We gotta take their life away from him. Draw! Oh, man! Too much. Come on!
5:31 left in the overtime, tied at 27.
The wildest game of the NFL season was decided in overtime, where a sure thing slipped away.
Townsend rolls out to the left, still looking upfield. Pressured back to the 30-yard line, back to the 25, gets a block, throws a pass upfield, and it's intercepted at the 50. Brought back over the 40 and down to the Denver 31-yard line.
A subsequent Raider field goal finalized perhaps the most stunning defeat in Broncos history. And suddenly, everyone seemed to have an opinion about what was wrong with the defending AFC champions.
That was a shock to everyone. People were starting to point the fingers at different sections of our whole entire team. Defensive line's not getting the pass rush. Secondary's not covering long enough. Always not throwing good passes. The receivers aren't running in proper depth on the routes. When you're winning, you don't worry about any of that. And I don't know if you could look at one thing. We play as a team and we lose as a team.
Denver won as a team the following week as they bounced back in San Diego. It was a brilliant performance by the Broncos special teams that included unit MVP Ken Bell, Bruce Klosterman, Tim Lucas, Mark Munford, Jason Johnson, and Kevin Guidry. Pat Kelly blocked a Charger punt, and Tyrone Braxton ran it back to set up one of 4 field goals by place kicker Rich Carlos. Carlos's bare foot accounted for all of Denver's points in a hard-fought 12-0 victory, setting up a showdown in San Francisco with the 49ers. With all of the 49ers' accomplishments under Bill Walsh, San Francisco has never beaten Dan Reeves' Broncos. So it shouldn't have surprised anyone when Denver all but shut down San Francisco's high-powered offense. 49ers stars Roger Craig, Joe Montana, and Jerry Rice didn't earn any fame at the expense of the Broncos' defense. With its passing game limited to short strikes by a 40-mile-an-hour wind, it wasn't until the second half that the Bronco offense finally got into gear.
Elway's drop on first down. The pass, it is caught for a touchdown.
Vance Johnson's touchdown tied the game at 13 and sent it into overtime. There, the Broncos elected to play defense and put the turbulent wind at their back. It proved to be more than the eventual world champions could handle.
Young drops, quickly throws, and it is intercepted. Steve Wilson. The 10, Wilson at the 5. The Broncos get the interception, and it's first and goal, Denver. Kubiak will be the holder to win in overtime. The ball is down. Carlos's kick is on the way. The Broncos win. Rich Carlos has won it in overtime for the Broncos. Denver 16, San Francisco 13.
Back home for Week 7 in the Atlanta Falcons, team president Pat Bowlen and over 75,000 Bronco fans welcomed 3 more great players from the past into Denver's celebrated Ring of Fame. Rocky Mountain legends Haven Moses, Jim Turner, and Craig Morton took their appropriate place in the proud history of a franchise that is nearing its 30th season. And in a fitting performance, the 1988 Broncos played one of their best games. A wide-open offense shredded the Falcons, and an aggressive defense sent the football flying. The only setback for the Broncos came when they lost quarterback John Elway with a sprained ankle and knee. But they were able to overcome this with a brilliant performance off the bench by backup quarterback Gary Kubiak, number 8. Steve Sewell's 68-yard pass reception from Kubiak lifted Denver over Atlanta 30-14. But in Pittsburgh the following Sunday, a season that had seemed to be getting better took a disastrous turn for the worse.
Let's go down the football game. Let's go. Okay, man, and we made some progress this last 3 weeks because we played hard. Let's don't let today be an exception. Now, let's get after it. Let's go.
The tone for the rest of the Broncos season was set on the third play from scrimmage. By the second quarter, the game was out of reach as the Steelers crushed the Broncos. From this point on in the 1988 season, Murphy's Law seldom relinquished its grip on the Denver Broncos, as seemingly everything that could go wrong did. Buried on Halloween by the Colts and routed in New Orleans, the season turned into a confusing journey where the Broncos couldn't win on the road and couldn't lose at home. Their hopes for a third straight AFC West title remained alive until late in the season. However, back-to-back road losses to the Raiders and Seahawks sent Denver's championship dreams crashing down. It took 15 weeks to knock these twice defending champions off the road to Super Bowl 23. Many teams would be consoled by this, but not one that has set such a high standard, and one that is capable of accomplishing even more. The Broncos closed out the season at home against the Patriots, who were bound for the playoffs if they could first beat the Broncos. However, Denver played with the attitude that if it wasn't going to the playoffs, neither was New England. Sammy Winder rushed for 2 touchdowns. Tony Dorsett added another, and the defense rose up when it counted most.
Spy 32! Cougar Clash Zorro!
Interceptions by Tyrone Braxton and Randy Robbins secured a victory that knocked the Patriots out of the playoffs and assured Denver of an 8-8 season. In a year when expectations weren't always realized, there still was a lot to cheer about, especially when you look at the winning foundation upon which this franchise was built. The 1988 Broncos stayed in contention for the AFC West title in spite of injuries that would have ruined many teams. Something that was a tribute to Dan Reeves. This competitive and innovative head coach has the NFL's best home record since he arrived in 1981. And his disdain for losing suggests that future Bronco teams will regain the ability to win on the road. What his team lacked on the playing field, Reeves helped to make up for with imagination and rock-solid teaching principles that have made the Broncos one of the best coached teams in the NFL.
Good job. You see the zone, wait on your blocker. You see the zone, wait on your blocker. See that guy in the zone, just wait on him. Here we go. Let's go double X and go 94. All right, red left slot 94. Let's go. Nasty. So red left slot 94 on one. Ready? Let's go ace. Then we go 16 wing zoom outside. Ace. Let's go four wides. Then we go 69 16.
Gotcha.
He's got it.
Black right slot. Scramble right 16 on one. On one.
One facet that Reeves could always count on was a group of receivers that grew from a twig into a tree, which cast a shadow over NFL defenses. Catching passes from 3 different quarterbacks that included Ken Karcher, former number 1 pick Ricky Nattiel, number 84, was a speedy deep threat, and his 46 receptions tied for second on the team behind the flamboyant Vance Johnson, number 82, who led the team with 68 catches. Johnson caught virtually everything thrown his way, and he always seemed to be open, especially when John Elway needed him. All of Denver's receivers played special roles in Dan Reeves' explosive offense. Orson Mobley was a big and inviting target near the end zone. And all-purpose running back Steve Sewell, number 30, often doubled and excelled as a wideout. Tight end Clarence Kay, number 88, proved he was more than just an outstanding blocker by having his best year as a receiver. But no other Bronco receiver had a finer season than number 80, Mark Jackson.
Mark is a guy that I think has really come on. I think that when we first got Mark, his hands weren't his biggest asset, but I think it's something that he's worked on, and he's really reliable in tough situations that he's going to catch the football. And I think the thing about Mark is I think he's the best guy running the football after he catches it. He's very strong and he can take a hit, and we can throw him just a little hitch route and you never know how far it's going to go because he's a guy that's strong enough to break tackles, and he's got the speed too. So Mark is a great guy to just get the ball to him and let him run.
Though he missed 4 games with a separated shoulder, Mark Jackson came back to have his finest season in 3 with the Broncos, catching 46 passes for 852 yards. This former 6th-round draft choice averaged over 18 yards every time he caught the football by taking advantage of one of the strongest arms in football.
In our situation, that's why I think we're 3 of the better receivers in the league, because we're catching from Elway, and sometimes he doesn't touch the ball. If he has any flaws, and I wouldn't call that a flaw, because I'm happy. If you're listening to this, John, throw as hard as you want to, because it gives the defensive backs less time to react, and that's my job to catch the ball no matter how hard it's coming.
Mark Jackson did his job very well indeed. And late in the season, he was at his best when the Broncos needed him the most. Something that could also be said of punter Mike Horan, number 2. All season long, Horan's towering spirals pinned opponents deep in their own territory. And he set team records for most punts, most yards, and average. He earned a trip to the Pro Bowl with the NFL's highest net average, while his consistency was often spectacular.
On 4th and
10, but Horan will have to punt from his 3-yard line. The snap, the rush, and Horan kicks it out of there, and it's a dandy. It's a dandy. Brown backs and falls down. The ball going inside the 15, heading for the sidelines and out of bounds at the 12.
70 yards. He's going to have a pretty good average tonight, isn't he?
In 1988, quarterback John Elway was coming off 2 of the finest seasons that any quarterback ever put together back-to-back. Once again, he was the center of attention in Denver and the Broncos' most important weapon in their offensive arsenal. However, the expectations were never realized. In the preseason, Elway strained his throwing shoulder against the Colts on a pass that few other quarterbacks could have completed. Starting the season with a sore arm, number 7's interception rate rose along with the criticism, and mid-season ankle, knee, and rib injuries kept John from fulfilling the massive expectations that his previous performances had created.
Usually when people look at a team as being successful, the quarterback either gets the credit for it or he gets the blame. And of course, John's getting the blame for it right now. I don't agree with it. I do know that John's had to make some transitions because we lost 3 coaches on our offensive staff. You just don't replace those guys overnight. And so we're going through a little bit of a change there. We've had some injuries within our receiving corps that really has been difficult. We've had changes in our offensive line, and John has been suffering somewhat from that. Those are a lot of changes offensively, and the quarterback takes, the brunt of that because he's the one that's given the blame. And it's unfair because John has prepared himself and really is having an excellent season.
When healthy, no other quarterback challenged an opponent in so many different ways as did John Elway.
The guy has a great season just by being on the field. He is a constant threat. He's like having an all-pro tailback and an all-pro quarterback at the same time.
Elway became the first player in football history to have 4 consecutive seasons with over 200 yards rushing and more than 3,000 yards passing. Playing with pain, number 7 proved he could match anyone in courage and the fierce drive to win. And he mixed an occasional bit of magic in with the disappointment of a non-playoff year.
Come on, Elway!
In his 6th season, Elway was again a master at drawing a defense offsides with his cadence. This clever ploy slowed down the pass rush and frustrated defenders like the Chargers' Billy Ray Smith.
The really good ones at it are really cheating. They really are. They're breaking the rules. John Elway is probably the biggest violator of the rule in the game. His shoulders shake and he bobs his head and he puts his hands out like this, and that's illegal. He can't do, John, you can't do that. You just can't do that. And that's how he gets a lot of his offsides penalties.
Red 28! Red 28!
Elway's siren-like cadence has lured many overeager defenders offsides, including one Charger linebacker in particular.
I remember pulling Billy Ray Smith off sides, and it was when he was coming on a blitz.
Move!
It's that situation where he wanted to get to me bad, and he thought he had our cadence timed, and it was at this point in time where I changed it up.
Red 28!
Absolutely. Yeah, and it made me look bad, and I'll never forgive him for it.
Defense, number 54, offside.
Huddle up! My fault, fellas.
It's a little bit of sour grapes. He's trying to point it at me where he was at fault. He was trying to cheat.
He is such a competitor, and he's such a great and gifted quarterback that I'm sure that in his own heart he feels like if they lose, it's a direct reflection on him and his performance, when in fact it's not. It's a team game, and it's just scary when everybody around John plays well because they are just a dramatic and explosive offense.
Ken Lanier, number 76, and center Billy Bryan were the only healthy linemen able to start every game. They were joined by Dave Studdard, Keith Bishop, Keith Kartz, Mike Ruther, Winford Hood, Gerald Perry, and Jim Juriga, number 66. And all were helped out by the blocking and running of Sammy Winder, number 23, who along with Elway was the team's MVP on offense. Gerald Wilhite and Steve Sewell, number 30, were versatile all-duty backs who did everything that was asked of them and did it well. There was also Tony Dorsett, number 33, who rushed for 5 touchdowns. When this offense hit on all cylinders, it was an exciting scoring machine that raced away with a checkered flag.
Let's go. Let's just go. Spread orange left. 14 fullback post, 12-8 sideline option right on 2. On 2, ready?
In week 13, they left the Rams in their dust.
Elway fakes the handoff, has some time, now the pressure, and he's heaving it long upfield for an open Mark Jackson. And a touchdown! Starting from their 42-yard line, the fake and Elway rolling to his right. Here comes the pressure, he steps away from it. And heaves it long to a wide open Mark Jackson at the 18, at the 15, 10, 5, touchdown! And the Broncos have just scored on a 58-yard first down touchdown.
Los Angeles could never catch up as the Broncos offense played with flair, precision, and impact that allowed them to roll up 35 points against one of the league's toughest defenses.
On second down, handoff is to Dorsett, who wants to throw the pass, which is complete. Touchdown, Winder! Dorsett to Winder, the halfback option pass. We get the Mississippi mud walk in the back of the end zone, and the Broncos have gone ahead 34-10.
Denver sped off with a solid win, confirming that the striking power of this offense could match any in football, and a performance that promises a lot to cheer about for years to come.
Heavy Dennis deals, squeeze the back, ready?
The production of the Bronco defense slipped to 22nd in the NFL in 1988. A deceptive statistic because its intensity and enthusiasm proved that at times this unit could be dangerous. Punishing defense has always been a Bronco trademark, and men like Carl Mecklenburg, number 77, have made it effective. When 1988 began, Meck had his sights set on a 4th straight Pro Bowl, and it seemed as though nothing could stop him. Playing any of the linebacker spots, defensive end, or even nose tackle, this jack of all positions was proving that he was a master of them all. But though he was off to a great start, in the 3rd game against Kansas City, Mecklenburg broke his thumb on the final play of the game. He missed 7 games because of the injury, playing the rest of the season in a huge cast. But while this limited what he could grab, it never affected his intensity. Mecklenburg's pursuit and range to the ball remained, as did the courage to bring down a runner in the open field, even if it meant using his broken hand to do it. In his 6th and most courageous season, number 77's tackling style wasn't fancy, just effective.
As a linebacker, I'm just trying to get the guy down. Tackle the guy with a football. It's the same game I've played all my life. Just get a hold of him and get him on the ground, that's all. There are only maybe 2 or 3 times a game where you get a chance to make that big hit without risking totally missing the guy and have him go for 50 yards or whatever. So you have to pick your spots.
Mecklenburg picked his spots well, and so too did the rest of the Broncos linebackers that included crafty veteran Jim Ryan, number 50, and Michael Brooks, number 56. Bruce Klosterman, Tim Lucas, Mark Munford, Steve Bryan, and Rick Dennison, number 55, helped make the linebacking unit a team strength, while the MVP of the defense played some linebacker, some defensive end.
Simon Fletcher, who we moved from a defensive lineman to a strong outside linebacker, has played extremely well. I don't think there's been any strong side outside linebacker that I've seen in the league that's dominated his man any better than Simon Fletcher.
Simon Fletcher was effective as a linebacker stopping the run or as a defensive end rushing the passer, and he led the team in quarterback sacks. While number 73 certainly had a season to smile about, so too did nose tackle Greg Cragen, number 71, who had his best year in 4 with the Broncos. Cragen, along with young Sean Knight, number 99, veterans Andre Townsend, number 61, Freddie Gilbert, and Rulon Jones, number 75, rounded out the defensive line that shared a hard-hitting philosophy which has always defined the play of safety Mike Harden.
There's only one way to play the game, and that's all out and hard-nosed. It's physical, and that's the way it should be. You know, this is not golf or tennis, you know, we're talking football here.
Harden hit everything that moved, and along with Jeremiah Castile, Mark Haynes, Dennis Smith, Randy Robbins, Steve Wilson, Tyrone Braxton, and Kevin Guidry, the Broncos secondary proved it could be tough and opportunistic. It will be up to new defensive coordinator Wade Phillips to fit all of these pieces into a defense that takes away more than it gives up. And hopefully one that plays each Sunday as they played the Cleveland Browns in 1988. When Bernie Kosar led the Browns back into Mile High Stadium last season, many expected him to extract revenge for their heartbreaking losses in the previous 2 AFC championships. But such a belief underestimated not only the Denver defense, but the magic of Mile High Stadium.
Newsom in motion on first down, and the handoff Manoa to right guard for a couple of yards to the 22, and the Broncos say they have the football. They do. Turnover on the first play. Cragen knocking it away from Manoa, and Smith recovering. Mobley in motion. Elway's drop on second down. Late blitz. Pass caught. Mobley to the goal line. Touchdown! Elway to Mobley. 10 yards for the touchdown.
This was Bronco football at its best. An offense that capitalizes on what its defense pounded out. And today they did a lot of pounding.
Slam down, loses the ball. Broncos recover at the 30.
On one scoring drive, Elway scrambled the Broncos in close, where Gerald Wilhite got the tough final yard. The defense never let up.
Kozar back on 2nd and 10. Gets some pressure, throws it, and it's picked off Castile. And Jeremiah Castile comes back out of their nightmares to haunt the Browns again. Caught Weathers at the Denver 35 and tackled without the ball. Fletcher hits him. The ball pops free. The Broncos get it back. Steve Wilson recovers another Cleveland fumble. The 4th turnover by the Browns. Stay in the shotgun. Snap to Elway. 38 seconds to go. Quick throw. Sewell. He'll score. Touchdown.
By halftime, it appeared to be over. But it was at this same juncture in the 1987 AFC Championship that Bernie Kosar had nearly brought the Browns back in the face of similar odds. This season, however, the Broncos' mile-high mystique simply wouldn't allow it. Kosar was sacked 8 times on the day, and Simon Fletcher's play earned him the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. This 30-7 victory was a lot to cheer about, and a sign that the future of this team will be as exciting as its storied past. Throughout the 1980s, the Denver Broncos have been one of the NFL's superb football teams. They have won scores of big games in pressure situations that demanded firm leadership and extraordinary talent.
Crossfire! Crossfire! Red 98! Red 98! Cut!
The Broncos have beaten a lot of great football teams, and they have won year in and year out by displaying a confident presence and professional dignity that few have equaled.
Let's just run away, run away.
Since 1977, only the Miami Dolphins have won more games. But while learning about bitter disappointment in 1988, the Broncos kept their sights on the franchise's dream, a world championship. Having come so close, the Broncos are deeply committed to this championship quest. It is a journey that will soon include a state-of-the-art training complex to help this team better prepare for the challenges ahead. This landmark achievement is the result of a joint venture by the Broncos, Arapahoe County, and a private developer. Set on 13 acres, this 55,000 square foot facility will house the Broncos' administrative offices, training facilities, and 3 practice fields, and should be completed in spring of 1990. It is a bold commitment by team owner and president Pat Bowlen, and one that general manager John Beek and head coach Dan Reeves will be able to build a future upon, that is both exciting and entertaining. A franchise that is totally committed to the best fans in all of pro football. A coach and a team that are still eager to win a world championship. And a commitment to be the NFL's best. That defines the Denver Broncos as they head into 1989. And because of such lofty goals, there will certainly be a lot to cheer about for a long, long time.